Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. Welcome. ECSI's Midday Market Report for Thursday, December 22nd, 2022. Just 2 days till Christmas Eve, 3 days till Christmas, 9 days to the New Year's. It's Thursday, so don't scratch your head as we're crossing the border today. Myself and Andrew gonna get everyone ready for Christmas. We met yesterday for an hour and a half, just as I'd like to say, shooting the shit, talking business, talking life. Can you imagine that? Talking life. But it's always great to talk. We decided we'd come back today and spread the wealth. Try to find some winners. Try to find what's going on in hockey, in NFL. It's going to be frigid, absolutely frigid on Christmas Eve, where the NFL has moved their big slate to Christmas Eve, and then there'll be 3 games on Christmas Day. Tonight in the Pucks, 3-6. It looks like 8 games. As you see, I'm here at the Garden. The Bruins host the Jets. Hockey's been funny. This week's been funny. We come out of the gates 1-0, and was in a bad spot Tuesday. Instead of just going with what I should have gone, dove into the frozen pond, and my 2 games were gone. They were gone in the first minute or two. And on our alert yesterday, I left on the desk. I told everyone I should have waited one day. I said the Devils plus the 111, 112 last night, 114 was the play against the Panthers, and they come storming back to win. But for us, I'm going to ask Andrew this instead of venting for a minute. So let's bring him on, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good to be here.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Long time no talk. It's funny when we do that, Jeff, and we have some chat together, personal and business. We don't want to miss a show, but we're also creatures of habit. So we're just back 24 hours later, same time, same place, and here we are.
Last night on our alert, again, when we go into team totals, we look for value. We look for plus money. We look for something that most people aren't looking for. Last night was a perfect example. We dove into the Ducks, big dogs against the Wild. Ducks score the first goal, and then they're in the penalty box 7 times versus the Wild 2. The last 5 penalties in that game all called on the Ducks. So my question to you is, when you're going through your routine to handicap hockey, I know power play is a big thing. I know people look into power play versus, teams against the power play shorthanded. But do you stay? Listen, I know the Ducks are a bad team. Trust me, I do. But we needed to get to 3. You got the first one. Then, Wild get 2. So if I can get to 2-2, at least I know someone's got to score 3 there, and I'm still on the plus money side. But when you're doing your handicapping, does stupidity often in the penalty box, does that come into play with you?
I actually don't know where to find the information on most penalized team. I'm sure we could find that probably with a quick Google search, most penalized team, least penalized team. But I would agree that, I look at special teams this year more than I think I ever have, because it does play a huge part. Not to take anything away from Connor McDavid, but did you know that last week he wasn't even top 50 in 5-on-5 points? Isn't that crazy? For some players and some McDavid, he's the best. He's awesome, but that is pretty insane because sometimes you don't realize how important power plays are. But to your point, not even just about scoring goals, but also how it disrupts the game. Even if, especially having the team total, even if the opponent doesn't score, it takes time away from you being on offense yourself, and I've noticed that as a Canadians fan, that it just kills games, both for them offensively and defensively. The Canadians haven't been good on the power play. They're the league's worst power play. So whether they're going on the PK or the PP, it's ruining any momentum and tempo they had in the game. So I'll say this, Jeff, more than I ever have, I've been concerned about power plays and penalty kills this year. It's quite amazing. I mean, isn't that an interesting stat there about McDavid and the Oilers? I mean, because their power play is so good, but 5-on-5, they don't actually score as many goals. It's very weird.
And I think of McDavid as he's just lightning on skates. And so it does make sense if you look back at Edmonton and how many games go into overtime, how many times is he out there on 4-on-4s or, and if he gets it's like Tyreek Hill on skates. I mean, once he gets that cranked up, you can't stop him. I mean, he's worth the price of admission. We understand that. But on the 5-on-5 settings, obviously the NHL is finding ways, at least December 22nd, up to December 22nd, to slow him down a little.
Well, and the thing is too, is that a lot of people will argue that more than any other sport, the NHL is famous for makeup calls. I mean, it's unbelievable. You could almost bet it sometimes if a referee makes a bad call and sends the Oilers opponent to the box or sends the Oilers to the box, you pretty much know the next time somebody's stick comes close to McDavid, they're getting a hooking or tripping or slashing. And I know, I don't even think this is like anything controversial. I'm saying, any what's the word I'm looking for? Like I can't remember, like, not superstition, but a theory, I guess. I don't think it really is. I think you see a lot of that. The referees do make up calls. They notice, okay, I had a bad one, I got to get the other team back. But yeah, that's rough for the Ducks because they didn't even have a chance to be on offense. It's not even like you can say you got to really experience your full handicap because you didn't get to see what they did 5-on-5. I wish they had stats, Jeff, where they actually had a clock that told us how much of the game was 5-on-5 or how much of a game, they were shorthanded and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I knew right away. I think we had 3 or 4 shots in the first period. And listen, I wasn't going to the window and saying they were going to win the game. No, I wasn't. But
Right.
Again, I thought the price tag was worth the swing. Again, if I can get to 2-2, because I expected the Wild to win. But if I can get to 2-2, then anything can happen. You score that first goal and you're like, all right, now you're starting to say, okay, this is good. Even with the Wild tying it up and getting the 2-1 lead, I'm like, okay, let's find a way to make it 2-2. And then someone's got to get to 3. And you know what I noticed? And I'm starting to notice this. And I do not consider myself an NHL expert knowledge-wise as someone like yourself. I'm a numbers guy. But last night was a perfect example. The 2 late games. How do you get into the 2 late games? Vegas. How do you get into the Wild there again? I left them on the desk, minus the half goal in the first periods. I looked, because you were getting plus money. So if one of them won the first period, you were going to cash. I left them. They both lost in the first period, minus the half. There's, I'm not going to go into if someone's telling me the team totals 3.5 over minus 170, I'm not doing it. If they're telling me 3.5 under 170, where I can go to the window and get plus 150, that's too big of a carrot for Vegas to be giving me. I'm like Edmonton yesterday, 3.5 under minus 170. You could have went to the window and they got to 4.
It's frustrating because Jeff, yesterday was one of those days for the night games that if you overthought it, you lost.
Mm-hmm.
Or you didn't play. I did have Vegas on the puck line in the first period. And the last time I had that bet with Vegas, it cashed in the first period and they actually lost the game or they went to overtime. And man, that's a good feeling. But there's also a bad feeling of like what happens to me is when they win by a handful of goals and the game was scoreless after 1. It's frustrating when you see that happen. It's something that I think that I really believe in my process and I'm confident. When I was going through a slump, I wasn't really upset, wasn't bothered by it. I knew I'd get out of it, but it's something that I find as someone that for example, like I follow the NBA and I bet the NBA, but a lot less volume, like a little bit of props here and there if I see a guy's catching fire and stuff like that. I feel like sometimes for people that bet the NHL or bet certain sports that aren't like staring at it all day like me, it's like Vegas puck line, wild puck line. Like some people just wouldn't have overthought it. Like, okay, yeah, these two teams suck, and these two teams are in really good spots, and they want to. Like that's the thing. If I would have hit the puck line in the first period, I feel like a genius,
Sure.
And all of a sudden they lose that and they win 5-2, and I'm like, I'm an idiot. It's like one of those things. It's frustrating because I feel like last night I tried to reinvent the wheel, and like I had another over of a 5.5, which I've had the worst luck with. I mean, all the 5.5 seem to be going under. At least the ones I play, I had the Avalanche and Habs game over, and I just figured that with Colorado's beaten up lineup, at least they'd be able to score goals against the Canadians. And the Habs have been scoring goals. They just give up a lot of goals as well. And I said, it's only a 5.5. If McKinnon's out there, it's a 6.5. What's the score of that one? 2-1, so it was a frustrating that I'm frustrated and heavily motivated coming into tonight's card just because I feel like I really overthought things going into yesterday. And I will tell you, I really like your strategy. As much as I said I probably lean towards the wild puck line, I like your strategy with the underdog 2.5, because I've been interested in that this year. As much as it's nice to have that fat plus money underdog ticket, it's nice when you can take a 2.5, because what do we see these days for team totals? 3.5s, and if it's a huge blowout, sometimes we've even seen Toronto and Tampa and Colorado at 4.5 for their team total. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the NBA, because these are billionaires. LeBron's a billionaire, but these are divas in my eyes. It's not the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, the Michael Jordans of the days. These guys get their max contracts. They worry about their sneaker deal. They worry about their music deal, and they worry about their rankings and their ratings on the 2K. And if, Jason Tatum missed the last 2 games because of his son's birthday, but he got paid for him. Okay. And the point is, the Celtics, amazing road trip, come home not once but twice, lose to Orlando Magic. I talked on the closing bell with Riley. I said, that's a pacer line. That is an absolute pacer line last night. Celtics were down by 30 at home.
Yeah.
The Golden State Warriors, who are banged up or a mash unit, go to New York 2 days ago, lose by 40, and then they got to go play the Nets last night in Brooklyn. And down 30 after 1, and they allowed 91 points in the half to the Nets. So I see someone like an Akeem and some other people in these lanes pumping 6, 7, 8 games. And listen, if I've given out 5 NBA games this year, I think I'm probably over 2.5. I probably have given out 2 or 3 at tops. See what happens on Christmas Sunday, because I really don't start digging in until January and February. Then obviously the playoffs, because you can't, any team can lose by 30 or win by 30. And that's what's happening in the NBA.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's funny. I actually had a debate with somebody the other day about load management and that kind of stuff. And their argument to me, Jeff, was, why should they play against, a team like the Magic? It's gonna make their career longer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I think Sidney Crosby's gonna have a pretty long career, and guess what? He's had like 3 concussions. He's been to the playoffs pretty much every year he's been with that team. I don't think he takes a night off unless he's like has a broken bone. But yet, if AD has a hangnail, he's out for a month. These guys, what'd be hilarious in 1 year in the NBA? Imagine if they said you get a game check, you play, you get paid. I think they'd all play a lot more, don't you?
100%. Now, feel for the family of 4, that it cost them $800 to get into the Nets game last night. They circled this on the calendar. This is their Christmas present from dad and mom. Okay. $800 to get in for 4 good seats. That doesn't count parking, the souvenir shop, dinner. Okay. So they're in for $1,000. No curry, no Draymond, no Clay. It was the G team. And I just feel the kid sitting there with, waiting for that autograph or waiting for that moment that he can take his cell phone and take a snapshot. And load management hurt. It's the NBA. They got to do something. And they talked about shortening the season to 60, 65 games. But again, the owners, they'll lose revenue, and we can't do that. So it's just comical where someone way back in the day on the Spurs named Kawhi Leonard has now taken this, and the whole NBA is following it.
I was just about to mention him. That's funny you said that. That was going to be my follow-up to you is, look, Kawhi brought a championship to Canada, he hit that big shot, against Philly. He, took down a Golden State Warriors team despite an injury. They still got the job done. But it's crazy. You know what the funniest part about Kawhi is, Jeff, is that he doesn't even care to hide it, right? He doesn't even think, like, at least with Anthony Davis, he looks like he has an injury or something. Like, I'm not even trying to sound inconsiderate here. Kawhi has quote for quote said, I'm worried about the playoffs. It's December. It's December. The season started a few months ago, man. You can't be talking about the playoffs, but he's on such a good team, and the management paying him, they truthfully don't care about it either, about December. That's the thing. We can't just blame the players, right? We have to blame management too. But this is the funny thing, because in the NBA compared to the NHL, you need 7-8 players to win a championship. In the NHL, you need 3 lines, You need top 4 defensive pairings or 4 defense. It's different. The players run the league in the NBA. The players don't run the league in the NHL. The cap is different. The way people get traded is different. And frankly, we've seen it all the time. A top player can go to a good team and not make a lick of a difference, really. I mean, people don't understand that McDavid, as you said at the top of your show or the show here, he is a magician on skates. Last year, he went to the Western Conference Finals. Why isn't he in the Cup Finals? Why hasn't he won a cup yet? Why is the best player in hockey not winning a cup? NBA fans would say that, wouldn't they? Well, who's the best player and how many cups do they have? It's just not the same in hockey, and that's why those guys, because if Kawhi comes back and averages 25, 10 and 10 in the first round, everyone's gonna be like, this guy is crazy. This triple doubles nonstop. Nobody would care. Nobody will remember about November or December.
And I've noticed it a lot in football this year where these guys get injured. And listen, the torn ACLs and all that is one thing. Yeah. The new concussion rule after what we saw, they had already had implemented it. But when we saw Tua on his back, now they've taken it to another level where if you get called into the blue tent with a concussion, you're not coming back that game. And most of them aren't even playing the next game. But I'm talking the Michael Thomases of the world, the Keenan Allens. And I noticed it so much this year where now they're looking, all right, I got a bye week in 3 weeks. Okay, I just missed this game. I'm really not feeling it, Coach. Let's take this one off. And hopefully I'll be closer to the following week. And then it gets to that week and they're like, well, the bye week's the follow. No, you take it. and Keenan Allen missed another 2 or 3 weeks after his bye week because he heard it during the bye week. But again, they're still getting paid. And as you said in the NBA, even if they did this, how about we propose this? If you take a game off because of load management, we're taking 20% off your paycheck. Well, you can't do that. That's not fair. Well, yeah, we can. Why should you, some of these guys make $500,000 a game to go dribble a basketball for 48 minutes. 500,000. Oh, I'm going to take the next 2 games off, Coach. Why? I got family and friends coming in. It's my son's birthday. Okay, and what about my 2 daughters' birthdays that I had to be out in Albuquerque watching you guys and practicing while my kid just turned 23 or 24?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm different. I'm special. Yeah, I know you're special.
Well, it'd be interesting is like, how with football, like you can't play the next play if you lay down on the field for too long or something like that. Like, imagine they did that for the NBA. Okay, if you're out, you have to be out for a minimum of 3 games. Imagine if they set a number of games that you have to sit out if you're going to miss one. You can't look at the schedule and say, all right, all right, all right. I've got the Magic on deck tomorrow, but Saturday night we're playing the Celtics. I should be good by then.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden people will say, no, you can't play till Tuesday. and well, I don't know. This girl's in town to watch me. I'm playing the Celtics. I want to take down the top team. Well, I don't know, man. You were injured 2 days ago. That's what I would love to see, and that's my honest opinion. That's my hot take. If they're injured, 3 games or more.
Yeah, you got to take the week off. You got to take the week off.
It's kind of if I call in sick to a job I had when I was growing up, and then I so happened to go out to a festival or somewhere fun that night, and I wasn't actually sick, and then 2 days later I tell my boss I'm ready to come back to work, he'd probably say, "No, you're not coming back to work. We'll see you next week."
Take a few more days off.
Yeah.
Hey,
if you're sick, you're sick. Then you're missing the money.
How was that festival, by the way?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
8 games on the docket. Again, some big prices. The Leafs minus 320 against the Flyers. Trying to find some big ones. The Bruins minus 240 against the Jets. There are some obvious games we can get into. Islander Rangers right now around 155. Interesting, and they got me earlier this week. The Senators, Capitals short favorite against the Senators. Great game, Carolina and Pittsburgh. The Kraken favored in Vancouver. I mean, what has happened to Vancouver? Another great game late night, Calgary at the Kings, and the Wild on back-to-back travel to San Jose. Do you know the way to San Jose? They asked me. I was like, no, I don't. That's why I have Google Maps. But with that, take it away, my friend.
Yeah, some interesting games tonight. With it's nice to see a big schedule like this, and we do have some good games tomorrow as well. Because of course it'll be a couple-day holiday break there for the NHL players. Yeah, I mean the one that stuck out to me, and you mentioned it there about Seattle and Vancouver. The funny thing is, though, Jeff, I still think that this is a reasonable price on Seattle, which is crazy to say, but if I'm playing this game, I actually would look towards the favorite. I actually, in fact, think it's cheap on them. I think it should be. I'm seeing at DraftKings 120. I think it should be 30 at least. I think that this is a Vancouver team that if you're betting on them, if anybody out there likes Vancouver tonight, please take the first period money line. If they do not win that, they're losing the game. This is a team that cannot, first of all, hold leads, but they can't come back in games, Jeff. That's the thing with them. If they're down 2-1 even, it's almost a loss. They play like a different, and let's not say I don't like to I think it's fair. You have to be fair about every league if you're going to criticize something. And here's what I'll criticize about the NHL. I just talked smack about the NBA for a minute. Look, when you've got players like a Jack Eichel in Buffalo, or now it's a Bo Horvat in Vancouver, whether or not he was respectful or not about the way he did it, I don't really care. He pretty much made it clear that he doesn't want to be a part of the team anymore after this year, and he's supposed to be a leader on this team. Nobody can tell me that's not playing a factor. It seems like there's limited chemistry. It seems like the coach they thought that was saving their season last year has lost the room now. But Vancouver's GM just can't keep hiring new coaches. You got to stick with somebody. I just think there's lots of problems. And honestly, I'm surprised by the goal production for the Kraken. I mean, they've got a decent lineup, but man, they're scoring some goals right now. I think that would be a reasonable bet to make tonight. You take a look at the Flyers and Leafs game. If you're not betting Leafs unders at this point, and you heard me correctly when I said that, you're missing out. People are missing out on it. You've got, I think we're going to see Kata Hat for Philadelphia. And he's always fun to watch play because, man, he is a good goaltender. I was just talking to someone the other day, Jeff, about this, and I want your opinion on it because it's kind of like I was watching a debate, Shannon Sharp versus Tyreek Hill, talking about quarterbacks and receivers, right? Does the quarterback make the receiver look good? Does the receiver make the quarterback look good? Well, imagine if last year Colorado had Carter Hart. They might have had an easier path to a Stanley Cup. Imagine if the New York Rangers had Carter Hart. You know what I
Can
mean?
you? How about if the Edmonton Oilers
Yeah,
had Carter?
exactly. If, of course, this team in Philadelphia, what are they without Carter Hart? Nobody. The funny thing is, he can put up as best numbers as he possibly can. People don't look at the numbers for a guy on a bad team. You know, he is a great goaltender. If Canada goes to the Olympics or the World Hockey Cup, whatever they're calling it now, he's got to be a top 3 Canadian-based goaltender right now. In my opinion, I think he is. But because Philadelphia sucks so bad and it made him look bad over some years, I think that he doesn't get the credit he deserves. But Toronto's actually playing well defensively. You know what I've noticed? The forwards are being responsible. I hate saying good things about the Leafs, but they cashed a big ticket for me the other day. They're playing well defensively. I think that when the Flyers are involved against teams like the Leafs, they usually try and lock things down. They don't play much offense themselves. The only thing that worries me in that under, Jeff, is that we do see the Leafs play down to their competition sometimes. And of course, they are coming off a big win. But those are 2 plays that stuck out to me. Obviously, it's a big card. We can go through several of these games. There's lots of good ones, including that late night game in LA.
I want to circle back to the Seattle Vancouver game because it's a overnight -110 both sides with a 6.5 juiced under -15 cents. Open up the floodgates and in comes everyone on Seattle now -120, as you said, still 6.5 under -15 cents. I go over to Wager Talk, where you're from, and I look at the team totals, and they don't allow me to get into the team totals. Seattle 3.5 under -145. Here's the real one. Vancouver 3.5 under -165. Yet the total is 6.5 juiced under. So how do I read this? This is very simple how I read this. 4-2. I read this 4-2 all day. So you're going to get a 2-2. Who gets the 3 and who gets the empty net? Now, the Kraken cashed a big ticket for us on Sunday. Big favorites. That was the final leg of our parlay on Sunday. And then they come back as bigger favorites on the next day. And they're playing great hockey. Now they step out onto the road against, every time I go against Vancouver, I always write, hopefully Bo doesn't know tonight hockey. And this used to be, I love the run that they had a few years ago. He was God in the playoffs. And I was like, holy, and I didn't even know the guy. And I'm watching this guy, and it was just insanity. Now to see this, am I crazy to run to the window and take the Kraken team total over 3.5, and I can get them at a whopping +125?
I don't think you are. I think you might have talked me into it personally. If I do end up betting and releasing to my clients this game, I think the better play might actually be the team total. And like you said, you're getting that nice price. I like where your head is with this one. I think that we always talk about what's so great about team totals is you're completely dismissing what the other team does. You're just hoping that one team plays well. And that could be, I think back to that Canadians game, not to pat myself on the back, but when I had the Habs team total over 2.5 and they lost the game, it was like 7-6. They lost the game. It was the craziest game of the year so far. Vancouver could surprise all of us and win 6-4 tonight, and we both win. That is what's nice about the. I got one thing my friend always does to me whenever I like a team total. He says, "Well, why not just play the over?" And so I'll ask you that. You think that Vancouver is limited to just 2 goals, which makes you more comfortable just focusing on Seattle?
No, because what did you say Vancouver has a hard time doing? Holding a lead. I could see Vancouver even getting out to a 3-1 lead, Seattle tying it at 3-3. And then again, like, when was it? There was a game earlier that I was just staring at it, and it just irked the crap out of me because if I played the over, I was a winner. Actually, it was earlier. I think it was late last week. The under over was 6.5. I took over 3.5 on a team total, and we didn't get the win in overtime. We lost 4-3. So people would say, "Why didn't you just take the over?" And again, there's a million ways to peel this onion back. I'm looking for value. I'm looking for plus money. I think Vancouver. Put it this way: if Vancouver was 3.5 under minus 145, and the Kraken was under 165, I would tell you I like Vancouver team total today 3.5 over plus the 125 because I think they're at home. Seattle got a little fat at home. Now they got a first game on the road in a while, and I think this is a perfect spot for Vancouver. Now, can they win? I don't know. I don't trust them to win. Are they going to score tonight? I think they are. But again, when Vegas is going to say, "Hey, I'll give you plus 145," saying they don't get to 4, that's a big carrot that they're offering you at that window.
Yes, and I think I think it's ridiculous because you look at the production we've seen from Seattle, and what is it that I always say, Jeff? It's not just about a couple guys scoring. That's what's been so great about the Bruins this year, and Seattle has actually had that right now. It's a lot of different guys producing, a lot of guys. I like looking at shots on goal props. I'm telling you, they're a team that you'd want to stay away from as far as that goes because a lot of guys are producing. A lot of guys are putting the puck on net. It's different than some teams where just 3 or 4 guys are getting the bulk of the shots on goal. It's so like, as I've gotten really into this year, and it's not like I bet them all, but I've really been keeping a close eye on it. When you look at the average amount of shots on goal for a team is somewhere around 30, like 10 per period. When you look at that 30 number, you take a look at, okay, now how many guys are going to get 3 or 4, or is someone going to get 6 shots on goal? Is, one guy, how many guys are going to get 1 shot on goal? This Seattle team, we go through the list right now. They've got all kinds of players that finish with 1 or 2 goals or shots, but nobody really goes over their number, which I find kind of interesting. But I think it goes to show that you look at their games, you look at their production. We're seeing 4 goals, 5 goals. They're putting up numbers, and it's not all just against great teams or bad teams. It's just against whoever they're playing. So I think that you kind of talked me into the team total. I like Seattle as it already is, but I might switch my wager here to the team total because of the price on that. I'm riding with you. Let's ride.
Talked to someone before we started the show. They're afraid of the Bruins tonight, potentially peeking ahead to traveling to the Devils tomorrow. Devils finally break the schneid last night against the Panthers. Bruins tonight, big favorites against the Jets. A Bruins team total. They're telling you, come on down. Don't rush. We got plenty of lanes here. 3.5 over minus only 25 cents there, while Winnipeg is 2.5 under minus 120. When the Bruins were rolling early this year at the Garden, no one was getting 3 goals. It was 1, 2, or none. Now it's almost like, again, a sucker bet here to take, in my eyes, the Jets team total under 2.5 minus the 20.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue right now, like, you look at a lot of the games, this is just off the top of my head, a lot of the games where teams have competed recently against the Bees at the Garden, we've seen goals.
Mm-hmm.
Versus at the start of the year, it was unders. Nobody was even coming close. Nobody was scoring goals. And I gave credit to both the Devils and the Bruins because everybody was talking about how many goals they're scoring. I was talking about how many goals they're allowing or not allowing. But now the Bruins have had to start winning games by scoring goals in bunches, which has kind of led us to some overs. So I think if anybody likes, the dog in this game, you're better off just taking the over. If they compete, like I'll be honest, I had Florida in the last game that Boston played. I love that big fat price. I fell for the underdog, and the thing is they scored a couple goals, but Boston ended up scoring 7. You know, if you think a team is going to go toe to toe with the Bees, like I don't think the Bruins go down without a fight at home. You know, how many times have they been down so far at home and they end up going to overtime or a shootout, you know, and they score 3 goals in 15 minutes of hockey? I lean towards the over in this game, Jeff.
I can see it. I can definitely see that. Penguins, anyone hotter than the Penguins right now facing Carolina? They're not giving them away on DraftKings. The Penguins minus 140. I see in a consensus around 130, 135. An under over of 5.5, Andrew. There's one of your numbers. 5.5 over 15 cents.
I know. I'll tell you, these 5.5s are bugging me these days. I don't know if you saw my tweet, but man, they're bothering me. But you know, this is I think this is an interesting game to look at. Pittsburgh nearly averaging 3.5 goals per game. I actually like the under in this game. I know I sound like I've just been mostly giving out totals here, but hey, why not? They all cash the same, as you always tell me. You know, Carolina has been playing some really good defensive hockey. They only give up 1 against the Devils, 2 in their last meeting against Pittsburgh, 2 against Seattle. They shut out Detroit, shut out the Islanders. They had that little hiccup against Dallas, but they're getting back to playing Carolina Hurricanes hockey. And I think you take a look at Pittsburgh, what's made them successful is how deep they are. They do have lots of options besides just their top guns, but they are a better defensive team than they get credit for. They do have a good goaltender who doesn't get talked about enough. And hey, maybe I'm frustrated because I've lost on some 5.5s to the over, but I think this is a 5.5 that goes under. I could definitely see a 3-1 type hockey game here for either team. And let's not forget, Carolina plays different on the road versus at home. They're one of those teams I have a big circle around, Jeff, as far as a home ice advantage team. I don't have that many teams where the circle's around them, but they're one of those teams that I was looking at. I want to mention, I forgot to tell you this, one of the games we were talking about, I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was the Seattle game. I looked it up for you. I think it was 14-1 or something like that for the exact score, 4-2. So I checked that for you because it's always fun to look at that stuff. But yeah, I like the under 5.5. I'm slightly leaned over here on Pittsburgh, but I can't get there with the price.
Shout out to Marty Lowe and TJ. Thank you all for being here, adding to some content, asking some great questions, and listening as we try to break down the NHL before we get to tonight's NFL game. The two on the late slate, Calgary and LA. Calgary a short favorite. Everyone waiting for them to catch stride, that juggernaut that they were last year. We haven't seen the Flames flickering like they were last year, no pun intended there. But they are favored right now, minus 115, 118, with an under over of 6 juiced under. And then the Minnesota at San Jose. Minnesota big favorites. And you know, I'm not patting myself on the back here, but we go back to the preseason where we were talking about futures, and I kept asking you about this Minnesota team. They're on fire right now.
Well, and I feel like I've talked about too many people being underrated, but again, I'll say this to you. I said it last week on your show. Marc-Andre Fleury is a great goaltender. He still is a great goaltender. He controls rebounds very well. I love that they picked up Ryan Reeves. They've got, you know, 2 of the toughest guys in the league now in Foligno and Reeves. They have a great goal scorer in Kaprizov and Zuccarello. They've got a lot of guys that can produce. They have what I would call role players. They have players that all know what their role is. They execute them perfectly. I do remember the show where we talked about that. So you're not patting yourself on the back. You're just talking about something you mentioned that I think was correct. And it's funny because I'm more of a futures guy in season. You've talked about that as well. But this goes to show sometimes there is a chance to look at things before the season starts. Maybe in the new year, you and I can do a show together, just mostly talking about look aheads because, you know, January is usually the time to do that.
100%. And I will definitely make sure we get that done. Going to the Calgary and the Kings game. Okay. So people will go to the window and they won't be afraid to lay the lumber on the Calgary Flames, short favorite, and under over a 6. I look at the team totals here. Here's a perfect example. Calgary team total 3.5 juiced under -170. So Vegas is telling you, hey, if you think they're going to get to 4, we're going to give you a whopping plus 150 at the window. All right. But they're telling you they're going to get to 3 or less. And then they tell you the Kings are 2.5 over -165. So listen, I'm not a math wizard. Okay. But Vegas is pretty well telling me that this is going to be 3-3 and someone's going to win 4-3. Am I correct or incorrect here?
You're right. And I could very well see this. This is supposed to be a very good hockey game. This is supposed to be one of the better games of the night. I think that you have a great read on it. I think that the way you analyze that team total, it makes you really wonder. It makes you think about what the odds makers really think of this game. If the Flames are getting that price, but the team totals on both these clubs are the way they are, is any team really a favorite here? I mean,
No.
Shouldn't this be more of a pick 'em? You know, I like the Kings tonight. This is the funny thing. I think the Flames are going to get on a run because that East Coast road trip they had, a lot of things didn't go right for them, but they played good hockey. That's how hockey works sometimes. But they had 2 quick wins against the Sharks. I don't think this is one where they have a good performance. I think that they have a bright future in January. I still think they had some chemistry problems. They're developing now, I think. But let's not sleep on the Kings. You know, nobody wants to give credit to them. A good defensive team, a team that has, you know, a good forward group, and they're also a pretty veteran-based team. Would you say? And they've got a lot of older players, especially on the blue line, and especially this early in the season. That doesn't really affect teams. You know, I think the Kings are the play tonight, Jeff. I'm riding with them. The Flames are an inconsistent team that I think will not be ready for tonight's matchup. I want to bet the Flames in good spots. I bet on them in regulation against San Jose in their last game. I want to find spots to bet on them. I don't think this is a good one for them.
Agree 100%. 100% there. NFL tonight, 2 teams going in opposite direction. The Jaguars now, I hate to say it this way, kind of got some pretty good news in regards to it. Looks like Tannehill is out for the year now, and they still have a game with them. So they're chasing Tennessee. It will be the Malik Willis show for the rest of the year. That line has gone down to 3.5 against Atlanta as well there. But they go to the Jets, who are struggling, and Jags off of the big win against Dallas. Everyone says Trevor Lawrence is now who we thought he was. Zay, it isn't so, is just on my fantasy bench and just putting up 25 and 30 points a week. Thank you very little. Short week, Salas, big stage with a quarterback that is not just fighting for his life this year, maybe his future as being a Jet. Mike White is out. Let me flip over to some numbers here for you. Currently, Jets now 2.5 with the 36.5. So money pouring in on the Jets. And I get some team totals for you. Jacksonville 17.5 juiced under -120. And the Jets at a flat 19.5. For me, that Jacksonville would be a go number. But I know in my mind, I think a lot of so-called shops are on Jacksonville today, but I know a lot of the public is. I'm kind of surprised at this number moving this way. If I had to give you a total in tonight's game off the top of my head, I'd probably go 2017 Jets. That's where my gut is.
I'm not a huge teaser guy, but a 6.5 point teasing up the Jags. I mean, even primetime dogs being teased up. You know, I don't believe in teasing. I don't even believe in teasing totals. I know the math behind it, but do you know how great it would be, you know, if you bet all season long, teasing the dog up and the total down on primetime games? You would make money almost like every single Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. It just seems to me, first of all, the games are usually close-ish, and a lot of times that the tees are going up, you're getting those 6 to 7 extra points. You're crossing the key numbers. That's kind of where I'm looking here, is finding a dance partner to pair up with Jacksonville. But I like the Jags. You know, I don't think they're phonies. I don't think they're frauds. I think that they actually are a more structured football team. You know, this is one of those things where if they weren't wearing if the let's put it this way, if the lineup if all the players that play for the Jags were going out tonight and they were wearing New England Patriot jerseys, how are people judging this team, right? They're wearing Jags jerseys and people aren't giving them credit anymore because they're the Jags. Anybody out there, hopefully, that understands what I'm trying to say here is that it's reputation. Nobody wants to give the Jacksonville Jags a credit or the time of day because of who they are. And I guess you could sort of say the exact same thing about the Jets. But the fact of the matter is, Zay Jones has been a prop betting machine for me, Jeff, as far as receptions are concerned, as far as a lot of different things. But I'm telling you, I will continue to bet his receptions over because I don't care what he does after he catches the ball. I don't care how many yards he gets on the ground afterwards. I just care about him getting the ball in his hand. And we always talk together about how these props, you go to dinner, you go to the bank, they don't ask you how you made the money. And I'll just tell them, hey, Zay Jones had another great game. That's what I'll tell them. As much as we have seen Jacksonville run the ball, Trevor Lawrence over on completions has been a good prop bet to take a look at. Do you find that with the Jets, I will say this. I mean, do you find that with the Jets, there's just been a little bit too much of almost like locker room distraction? They're obviously they have a good crew as well. You know, these are two teams that back in high school when we played in a tournament, and if we were the bottom two teams or whatever we were watching that game, we called it the toilet bowl. Well, that's what this game is tonight, the toilet bowl of the NFL. However, one team's actually playing pretty well right now. As far as the teams are concerned, it's the toilet bowl, but really Jacksonville's competing for a great spot, you know, but I just think there's too many issues. Were you saying that you think that it's just a little bit overrated for Jags, or you know, it's an interesting spot. I'm going to tease it up. I'll say that I'm teasing it up. Call me a teaser, call me a Johnny Public, but I think that's the move. But I think if you like the Jacksonville Jags, honestly, why not just look at prop bets? Why? It's the same reason why you look at team totals, Jeff. It's how I feel about looking at prop bets on tonight's game. Why should I have to worry about what the Jets are going to do? Right?
Let me take you back to Sunday for a second. The Lions, who are the NFC version of what the Jags are doing right now.
Agreed.
Okay, on Sunday they were at New York. Now they were 1-point favorites at one point, getting close to kickoff. That line kept going back and forth. And they jumped to a favorite because Mike White was out, and in comes Zach Flip Wilson, whatever you want to call him. And what happened? Lions found a way to win late. I would respect the Jags tonight if they were 1.5 point favorites. I don't like where this line's going. Now, I'm not saying the Jags aren't the right side. Number two, I like where you're thinking. Get them to 8.5. You were looking for a dance partner. I know it's going to be below 0, but I would, if you can get your Bills at 8 right now and take them to 2, I think they win by a field goal at Chicago. That's just my 2 cents there. But with that said, I don't know. I don't know. I'm rooting for the Jaguars. People don't remember Mark Brunell. They don't remember Fred Taylor. They don't remember Maurice Jones-Drew, Jimmy Smith. There were some glory days there. I'll tell everyone watching and listening right now, in 2017, week 13 of my fantasy in the NFFC, I grabbed Blake Bortles off the scrap heap and started him in week 13 and then played him in week 14, 15, and 16. And I'm staring at my check for $195,100 that I won in the NFFC because of Blake Bortles. Okay.
Did you get his jersey? I have to ask. Did you buy his jersey after that?
No, I did reach out and thank him. I wanted his address for a Christmas card. He didn't reply. Twitter wasn't as big as it is now. So, but I thank him. I thank him every year that without Blake Bortles, I wouldn't be staring at this check right here. So, cool. But I respect where they're going, and the fact that the Titans now are banged up, This is the NFL. The NFL would love to see the Lions in. They'd love to see the Jaguars in. Someone compared this year's Jaguars almost to the Bengals last year, ascending upwards as the season got closer and closer to the playoffs.
Would you argue though that like Cincy was a little bit more, there was more spotlight on them just because of like the big names they had?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was Joe. Don't forget, Joe
Mhm.
was coming off a couple of years ago, the LSU, the cigar,
Yeah.
and they
Injury.
had, yes, injury. They had Jamar Chase. They had T. Higgins. They have Joe Mixon. They caught a lot of breaks in the playoffs. They caught two bonehead plays by the Raiders at home. They caught 5 turnovers in Tennessee. They caught Pat Mahomes whining to Andy Reid to go for it before the half. And don't forget, in the third quarter, they scored twice. And they had, a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl. And then the rest was history there.
Yeah.
Again, I think right now, as we speak at 2:04 on 12/22/22, the Bengals are the best team in the AFC right now. I'm not saying they're going into Buffalo to win. I'm not saying they're going to beat Kansas City to get to Buffalo. I'm just saying right now, today, the Bengals are the best team in the AFC.
I think right now, today, they're a great future bet as far as the number is concerned, value is concerned. Their pathway, the teams they've proven they can beat, it's not like they haven't proven they can get there or they can beat the top level teams. They certainly have shown us they've proved it. What about the total? Are you with me on the under? You think that these teams will see the Jets, very conservative, run the ball heavily, make Mr. Wilson not have to try anything too challenging?
Well, I can just tell you, based on the team totals right here. I mean, a 36.5 is an auto play because in the mind it's 2017. Okay. But they're giving you the Jets at 19.5 for a reason. They're like, come on. They're going to get to 20 or 21, maybe 23. Then why isn't it 20 or 20.5 or 21? Okay. Yeah. So your actual final tonight probably could be 17-13, 17-14, where the Jets don't get to their team total of 19.5, or Jacksonville doesn't get over 17. They could be stuck on stupid at 17, and it could be 17-17, and it's a 55-yarder from Greg the Leg Zerline for the winner, 2017.
Right. Greg the Leg. If he misses a kick, the world is just done for. I mean, this is a guy that's pretty consistent, but he can also kick pretty far. I want to just let everybody know, anybody watching the show right now, that Leafs game, the puck is dropping right now. It's an afternoon special. So anybody interested in the Leafs game, bet the under. Join me. Let's try and cash a ticket here.
207. What the hell are you guys doing in Toronto playing at 207?
Some type of family day, I think. Some type of I don't know.
Jeez. Do you have a prop to give out either on Thursday or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day for the followers before we wrap this up?
I'm not sure if this would qualify as a prop. I'm doing a lot of my prop research today because I used to, Jeff, handicap the prop betting market without the numbers being there and then see what the numbers are. But I've changed how I work. I like all the numbers to be available. I'm sure you can understand. I still do my research, but I like to know what the prop number is before I start diving into things. But I will say this, and I'm curious to see what our buddy Dan Alexander has to say about this. I like talking about the buzz games with you and the games that everybody's talking about. It's fun to give an opinion out on those. And well, I like the team total over for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, this is an opportunity where we saw a massive, massive change as far as the line movement in this game. Currently at the book I use, I'm seeing +5 for the Eagles. Jeff, let me know if that's far off from what you're seeing where you shop. But when I take a look at this game and I look at really what the Eagles are capable of, this is one of those things where people are just going to talk about the quarterback and not talk about the receivers that are still there, the offensive line that's still there, the defense. I mean, how much of an impact is Jalen Hurts to be that many points? I was told when I was, being mentored by people and talking NFL and point spreads with odds makers. And, we talked to a guy like our pal Sherapan. I was never instructed that a point spread would be affected this much, even if it was an MVP caliber QB, Jeff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that quarterbacks were worth a couple points, I didn't think they were worth nearly a touchdown.
Jalen this year, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers in his prime, Tom Brady in his prime. There's only a handful of them. Josh Allen this year. Lamar Jackson doesn't move it as much as he used to, but there's a handful of them and obviously Jalen was one of them. And not to interrupt here, but what the real big talk of the town is, and we're going to have Dan on in actually about 20 minutes here, is how he is not the MVP favorite anymore. He was the favorite over Mahomes. He passed Mahomes. If Philly wins or Minnesota loses, they got the number 1 seed wrapped up. So why would he rush back next week or the week after that? I mean, he could literally have a month off if he wanted to.
Yes.
And in the NFL, there's 18 weeks. There's 17 games to make a statement why you're the MVP. Before they kick off right now this week, in my eyes, Jalen Hurts is the MVP. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely not. But in the betting market, it is now flipped. Why? Because he's probably going to be out for the last couple of games. People remember what they saw last, whether it's Patrick Mahomes. Maybe Josh Allen just catches lightning in a bottle the next 3 weeks and goes hog wild and passes Mahomes. And now people talking conspiracy, they just want to gift wrap it to Patty Mahomes. It's always Patty Mahomes. So it's interesting on that market as well.
Jalen Hurts is the MVP in my mind as well. Also the MVP of my fantasy football team. So, look, I mean, maybe not anymore. I'm probably going to lose in this round in fantasy now that he's not out there. But yeah, I think that instead of looking at the underdog, instead of looking them at this price, I'm more so just going to look at the Minshew show. I think that you got a guy coming in with no pressure. A lot of people are saying that realistically, why show a team like the Cowboys the tricks you have up your sleeve, the tricks you have in your bag? It almost works out well. That's why I'm not taking the spread. That's why I think it's good to take a look at the team total. That's why I think you take a look. And no matter where you really shop around, it's around the same number. I mean, I've seen, upwards of in the 20s, I like this quite a bit. I think we're going to get the job done. And I think we're going to get points for them. One thing about the Eagles is that they actually, I've talked about this before. One of my favorite stats to look at when I bet NFL and NFL props, especially, is time of possession. The Eagles hold on to the ball quite a bit. They make some big plays down the field, but not every one of their drives is decided by a 40-yard play, right? One big toss. The longer that they do that, they're going to be able to put up points, whether it's field goals or touchdowns, and keep Dallas off the field, So I don't know. I like that one quite a bit. The team total over for the Eagles.
Currently, Vegas thinks it's a flat 5 everywhere, which scares me when they all copy and paste and they all move it in it's the high profile game. Again, like tonight, 36.5. Of course, it's going to go to 30, the final score lands on 37. That's what everyone thinks. This one's at 46.5. Vegas has got this pegged at that 27-20. Which way will this line go? Godare is back. Godard, whatever one. I just call him Godare because I dare you not to cover him because he'll just go right down the seam and he'll get yourself a touchdon there.
Yeah, I called Chuba Hubbard on my prop show last week, and somebody said, "No, Andrew, that's what happens when we win. We get." I was like, "Oh my god!" Anyway, I'm bad with names.
Oh, I am bad. I have a Dallas guy that's worked in Dallas for 25 years. I call him Micah Parsons. Micah, what do you mean by Micah? I don't know. I just know he's a hell of a damn football player. How's that?
When I was doing play-by-play before, I used to have somebody say to me, "If you can't pronounce my name, just call me number 14. Don't try and pronounce it and it sounds bad. Call me number 6." Or something. I was like, okay.
The scroller's been going the whole time. At McInnis Picks, at Wager Talk, at Sports Mayflower. Jump on over to YouTube to Mayflower Sports. Subscribe. It's free. Tell a friend, tell another friend, give us a tweet or two for Christmas spirit and holidays. Andrew, anything going on the rest of this week? Next week, which is the final week in 2022, just as I said, Malik Willis expected to start. Yes, I did know that. And going into 2023, tell them where to find you.
We always talk about longevity, and anybody that wants to join me for the rest of my hockey season or a yearly pass that gets all my sports, this is really the time to do it. We've got lots of specials going on Wager Talk. You can tweet me. My Twitter name is here, right in my name tag there. And I try and answer everybody I possibly can. If you want to get on with me long term, January is usually the time to do it. A lot of people I know do say that the calendar for sports betting is March to March because of football and March Madness and stuff. But I think it's good if you want to sign up with me, sign up January 1st. We'll rock for a 1-year pass. You get UFC, CFL, NBA, NHL, lots of different sports. So that's all I really have to mention, Jeff. I don't like to talk about the packages too much, but I like, just like yourself, it's nice to have people on for a long term. So anybody wants to join me for a year, I can get you a real good promo, real good discount, and you can join me and just tell me where you came from, and then we'll figure things out.
It's funny. I've been a DirecTV satellite dish owner since day one. And the reason that I had it since day one is for the football package. And then I get the baseball package, obviously for work and business. And sadly to say that this is the last year for DirecTV and the football package. And at the office, that my daughter talked me into YouTube TV. She's like, Dad, you got to get YouTube TV. And anyone that is trying to cut some costs and cut the cable costs and cut the umbilical cord, I can't suggest YouTube TV. It is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I added another package for $10, which gets me Sports Grid. It gets me all kinds of Big Ten. It gets me Poker Live. It gets me so much stuff. But YouTube is just got awarded the football package from the NFL for billions and billions of dollars. So it's going to be.
What, you guys are getting screwed over there in the States. For us, we just have one app we use, DAZN or DAZN, whatever you want to call it. We log on to whatever device we have. We get every single game.
Yeah,
in the States, they're giving you a different app for every single primetime game. That's just not fair.
The local TVs carry the 1:00 game. They'll carry the 4:00 game. Fox will carry a game, and then ESPN will carry the late game. But for me, it's always been 8 games at 1:00, and then 4 games usually at 4:00, then the late games. And so now with YouTube TV this year, if I was in the office, they had the red zone, and then so I'd have on one TV the local game, and then we'd have the red zone on the other TV.
Red zone's fun to watch.
Yeah, it gets you all amped up. It is fun to watch. So I'm excited to see, with that kind of bill that they're paying, if they make it a la carte, if they make it, pay for the whole season, how they do it. But that's where I was going with the long-term packages. TJ been with us now for a short time, and he knows what we're all about. And listen, guys, I understand if I only want one day, I'm going to go to the window and spend $30. But look at it as a long-term investment. If I can get a half a season of hockey and playoffs included for $300 or whatever the price tag is, just divide that by the day, and it's pennies on the dollar. So when you catch the 26 and 6 heaters, they offset, the 4 and 6, the 4 and 8. You didn't get the open netter. You hit the crossbar or whatever it is. And that's the only way that you will be successful in these lanes is by long term.
And it's just, you can tell, like I can always tell on Twitter by the way someone's talking with me or the way they're tweeting at me what package they're on. I go through my note. I had a 2-0 day 2 days ago with a big pick on the Maple Leafs. A bunch of people joined me on it. Yesterday, I have a quiet 0-2. Gave back some of the profit from the previous day. And you can tell the guys that are saying, we'll get it back. We're all good. And the guys that are like, oh, man, I can't believe you went 0-2, Like the 26 and 6 run you had, people that are just joining now with you wouldn't have had that. So it's just nice. I mean, we don't want to preach too much, but it's just important. I feel like you can judge somebody more off a longer term with their success. That's why it bugs me in my personal life, just as a personal life thing. If I meet, if I make some buddies playing hockey or basketball or some friends of a friend or anything like that. Oh, you work in the betting industry? Like, well, give me a pick for tomorrow's Sunday game. I don't even want to give them one pick because if I lose, this guy sucks. How does he have this job? How does he do content? They'll give you one shot, some people, to prove yourself. And if you don't go 4-0 on a Sunday, you suck. So I'm almost like, all right, here's the deal. You take my picks tomorrow, you're taking them tomorrow and the next week after that. And then you can judge me off that. That's what I always tell my friends. Like, if you're riding with my NHL 5% picks, you better ride with them all year long, not just this one.
And that's the downside is the fact that I got out of that free picks thing a million years ago because you give them a free pick, you win, you were supposed to. Why? We're paid professionals. When you lose, you suck. A $10 better had $1,000 on it. Now they can't pay their rent, never mind their car. It's just you cannot win. And I preach longevity since day one. I love to hear you when you talk longevity because that's where it's all about. And if people are, you can tell when people are over their skis, when they're hemming and hollering, screaming and yelling because you just went 0-2 or you're on 1-5. Jesus, you suck, blah, blah, blah. You know why? Because they're over their skis. If you're throwing remotes, breaking TVs because you're on a losing streak, cut your unit size in half. When you don't want to sweat the small stuff, you set it and forget it. You move on and you say, Andrew, what do we got tomorrow? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Whatever it is. So I rambled enough.
How many stories have you heard, though, people in the Super Bowl lose all their profit from the season? I had a buddy that had a really good NFL season. He bets recreationally, like $20 a game. On Sundays, he just watches for fun. Pretty sure he put like $1,000 on the Super Bowl. I think he had the under, and it was Falcons Patriots, and he lost. And I'm just like, you had all that profit, and you just decided to bet it all on one game. Yeah, he's all in. He went all in.
Well, that's it. It ends up being entertainment at the end of the day for 95% of them. Why work 18 weeks of a football season, be up $1,000, and let's just say you're a $50 player, you're up, 20 plus units. You had a great season. You want to step it up on the Super Bowl? Here, put 100 on it, put 150 on it, take your 850, go set up, get the buffalo wings, get the scallops and bacon, get yourself a few football squares, and call it a day.
Yeah. He had fun though, so everybody makes their own choices, I guess. But he thought he was just playing with profit. He's like, hey, I still have money in the bank. I have my regular job. I just earned this all through the year. Let's throw it. Let's get that one last adrenaline rush, is what he was saying.
Could have went to Best Buy and got 2 65-inch TVs for the man cave instead,
Yeah.
From
or
myself,
he could have probably flown somewhere and just had a week in sun.
Exactly. Could have flown to Orlando.
Yes. What a great place that is.
I heard. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one, the only Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks. We wish everyone a blessed day and evening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Myself and Andrew will be back hopefully next Wednesday. We'll get you caught up for the bowl games. We'll talk some hockey. Maybe Andrew will talk of some junior hockey as we're getting closer there. And we'll see everyone actually real soon. I'll see everyone in about 10 minutes as Dan Alexander from Wager Talk and Premier Lacrosse and Bet on Lacrosse will be with us. So stay tuned.